Kendall, it's so good to see you virtually, meet you through the screen. I can see it's cold out there in
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Chicago. You're in
Uh,
Chicago, right?
yeah, it is cold.
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Chicago as well, but right now I'm not in Chicago, so it's hot out here. So stay warm out there.
Okay, okay.
Um, but how are you doing? I just want to start off with that. How's the start of 2026 treating you?
Oh, it's treating me well. I'm just running around being a dad.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm down the street from my son's school now that I have to pick him up after school and take him to his golf stuff and doing all that. So, it's I stay busy. One with the Chicago Bulls, of course. I do the pre-halftime and post-game show for them, but also, just taking care of my kids. I got one in college and one in high school right now.
And one's a hooper, right? I've
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
yeah.
he is. He plays for Northwestern.
I love that. Taking after his dad. I'm a DePaul Blue Demon though, so I can't
Okay, okay.
say go Northwestern, but I will definitely be rooting for your son. Um, I definitely want to talk about, what you're doing, your beginnings and your NBA career, but first I want to talk about what you just mentioned. Like you've
Mhm.
transitioned into broadcasting since retiring from the NBA.
Yeah.
So how has it been finding your voice off the court compared to finding it on the court?
Well, it's been a pretty smooth transition. You know, when I went to the University of Illinois, I knew that broadcasting was something that I wanted to do after I played basketball. And I had the opportunity maybe 2 years after I retired to join NBC Sports Chicago,
Yeah.
and from there it turned into CHN, which is Chicago Sports Network
Right.
now. So and right now I think this is my, if I'm correct, maybe 17th year doing the Bulls pre-halftime and post-game shows. So,
So cool,
yeah,
especially as a Bulls fan. I'm not a fan of a bunch of the trades and how things have been going for us, honestly, but it is what
yeah,
it is. Has being on camera changed how you view your own playing career, would you say?
yeah. It has. You know, I think that when I was playing, I used to hate broadcasters. You know, you
Yeah.
know, for stuff that they would say sometimes, and I
Yeah.
thought, that if they did get something wrong, I would take it personally and things like that. But being on this side now, I don't take it personally. Because I mean, I think that I shouldn't have taken it personally, I should say, when I was a player, because the guys are just giving their perspective, even though they may be wrong or right. you
Yeah.
know, it's still their perspective. So it's really nothing. It's rare that you run across a broadcaster that gets personal about something. They're just trying to paint a picture for the audience of what they see. And I didn't understand that as a player, but now as a broadcaster and being on this side, I understand it.
Yeah, I love that because I can totally like understand that. It's sort of like when people say even something as simple as like kids to their parents, like, oh, you don't get it, and blah, blah, blah. And you don't like when your parents like try to discipline you and then you become a parent and you're like, oh, shit, now I understand where that's coming from, right? Because now you're a parent and you see it. Um, Winding it back to your start, do you remember the exact moment where you realized, like, oh, shit, I'm gonna make it into the NBA? Like, do you remember that moment? Do you remember the feelings?
Yeah, I do. I do. When I was when I went to college, I didn't go to college to play in the NBA. I thought, I'm gonna go to University of Illinois, and I'm gonna play ball for 4 years. I'm gonna get a degree, and then I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna make a career at something else. But during my junior year, after we played LSU, I had my assistant coach Jimmy Collins come up to me and said, we had a lot of pros, and I had a great game. I think I had like 27 points and stuff like that. And my coach came up to me and said there was a lot of pro scouts out there today, and a lot of them like you. They mentioned you when they came in to talk to us. So that's when I knew, and it was like at the beginning of my junior year.
So then going from that junior year when you started realizing it to then becoming the fifth overall pick
Mhm.
in the draft, for listeners who don't know, in 1990, Charlotte Hornets. So how is the league different when you first went into it compared to now, would you say? Because I mean, even as viewers, we see a difference, but for you as a player, how are you seeing the
Yeah,
difference?
well, first of all, it's a lot older than when I was coming in the league. It's a lot older. I mean, coming out early meant you came out after your junior year.
Right.
I went all 4 years, but
Yeah.
guys that came out after their third year, that's leaving early. Guys that came out after their sophomore year, that's extra
There
early.
was no one and done. Yeah.
There was no one and dones back
Yeah.
then, and you came in and you really didn't have to develop a player
Right.
because they were already developed in college. I mean, they could come in and they were ready to play almost instantly. Whereas now, sometimes you got to wait a couple years on guys and everything because they skip a lot of tutelage by coming into the pros very early. You know, where you really learn the fundamentals of the game and the schemes and everything is in college.
Yeah.
Because when you get to the NBA, you got to be ready to go. And that's what I think. Also, the league when I came into the league, it was a lot more physical. Um, the league has been engineered now to take the advantages away from, or not take the advantages away, but give the offensive player more
It was
advantages.
more offensive. Yeah. Before it was
Right.
more
So
defensive during your time.
right. So I mean, we were a lot more physical than
Yeah.
these guys were now. We were allowed to hand check. We were allowed to give hard fouls and things like that. I was watching a highlight on LaMelo Ball the other day
Mhm.
where he broke down the defender and he went to the rim and then he's doing all these histrionics and stuff like that after he scored and everything. And then I looked at the defensive guy. The defensive guy didn't even play defense on him.
Yeah.
And everybody was going crazy like he had really done something when all he really did was do a couple of fancy
Right.
dribbles and straight line drive the guy.
Right.
Well, back in our era, you couldn't do that. You had no straight line drives because
Right.
guys had the ability to give you a forearm, and then if you can make it, okay, fine.
Right.
But now, I mean, I saw LeBron do it the other day. When he just straight line drive the guy and went and dunked and everybody went crazy. And I'm like,
This is not what it used to be.
this
Yeah.
is not what it used to be. I mean, the thing is a lot of people say, he's an old head, he's a hater, this and that. No, I'm a basketball purist.
I
Okay.
get it.
And I would like for the league to at least give the defensive side of the ball more rules that's well, give them some of the rules back where they can have some type of physicality.
I agree. It was more entertaining to watch, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
you can only watch someone shoot threes for so long until it's like, all right, let's get up in there a little bit more. Who would you say during your time was like the hardest, toughest player you had to guard?
Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, who was the former Chris Jackson. He was the toughest by far. He was the toughest when I was in college. He was the toughest in pros. Michael Jordan was second. Um, now, a lot of people misconstrue what I say when I say that. Michael, of course, was the better player. Okay, I mean, Michael's the greatest NBA player of all time. But for me, Mahmoud was harder for me to guard because of his quickness. And I was, like I've told this story many times, I was able to move with Michael. I was able to slide with him. I was able to block his shot every once in a while. I was able to change his shot every once in a while. But with Mahmoud, I couldn't do any of that
Oh, wow.
because he was just too fast. So that's how I try to explain it to everybody.
I like that answer. It's different because
Yeah.
people would expect you to be like, oh yeah, MJ, like, but
Now MJ was tough. Now don't get me wrong, but I just physically I just couldn't connect with Mahmoud on the defensive end.
had Michael ever like talked any smack, talked any shit like during any game with you while you've been playing, anything you
Yeah,
remember?
well, my MJ and I we know each other. We were friends and everything. So I mean, every once in a while he would say something. I could tell. Uh, One time in particular, we were here in Chicago, and I had the basketball, and he and Scotty were double teaming me, and to get them off of me, I was swinging my elbows, and then he stepped up to me and said, "Hey, stop swinging your elbows," and I was like, "Well, you stop swinging your elbows at me," and then he goes, "Okay, I can respect that."
I like that.
See, that's the thing with MJ. If you back down from him, he's gonna try and run right over you.
Yeah.
But if you meet him where he is, then he's going to respect you.
I love
You know?
that. That's a
Yeah,
good one. Which
yeah.
team or season would you say brought the best in you or like out of you?
Um, my third year in Charlotte, I had a that was my most successful year in the NBA because we went to the second round. And we eventually lost to the New York Knicks in game 5 or 6, one of those. And then my best year statistically was with the New Jersey Nets in my seventh year. I felt like I should have made the All Star team that year, and unfortunately, I got an All Star snub. But yeah, those years, and my first year with the Seattle SuperSonics, we won 63 games. So, but we were the first number one seed, believe it or not, to lose to a number 8 seed in the playoffs. So that was bittersweet
Yeah, for
because
sure.
I really thought we were gonna win a championship that year.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what's a belief about success you had early on in your career that you no longer agree with now?
Um, I don't disagree with any of the things that made me successful. Um, if anything, I've added to them. Um, you know, I was built on just outworking the other guy. I was built on imagining or visualizing success.
Yeah.
I was built on thinking, therefore becoming. There's a book called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And I totally believe that's true. As you think, so you become,
I
you
love
know,
that.
and, so I wouldn't change anything or disagree with anything that brought me to this point.
I love that. Talking about bringing you to this point, I mean, if your whole NBA career was a book, which chapter would you say people misunderstand most about you?
Probably my first 4 or 5 years, people thought I was um, somewhat of a malcontent sometimes, but I wasn't that. I was always a guy. I just didn't hang out with my teammates. I had interest aside from basketball. And just because I didn't want to hang out all the time. And don't get me wrong, I was cool with my teammates. I just didn't hang out with my teammates all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
I was always like that. I was a loner, always with myself or with friends outside of basketball. And I think that people didn't understand that you could have a life outside of basketball.
Right.
So that's probably the thing that was misunderstood about me.
I love that. And honestly, most people that do spend time alone with themselves usually end up more successful because you need that. If you're always with people, always getting, that energy, giving that energy to that, then you don't have as much time to put into your own success and your own, you talked about thinking about these things as you become. And so that's
Mhm.
needed.
Yeah.
You mentioned like things outside of basketball. I know later on you did some boxing, but other stuff, like
Mhm.
what are your interests outside of basketball?
Well, of course, boxing. Boxing is my favorite sport. So, I watch boxing all the time, and I have a boxing podcast that I do with Tony Lopez here in Chicago.
Cool.
Um, of course, I go to as many fights as I can. I watch as many fights as I can. My other interests are, of course, my children. I'm sort of like a helicopter parent, um, and sometimes I have to pull back. There, I'm almost too much as a dad, but that's just the way I was raised as well. And uh, I have other interests like I trade the foreign exchange market. People don't know that about me, but I'm a trader as well.
That's cool.
Uh, I'm into the arts. I used to collect art back in the day. I haven't bought a significant piece in a long, long time though. But I still, sometimes go to art galleries and shows and things like that. And I cut my own grass.
Love that.
And I got a lot of friends in different parts of life and things like that. I would have to say I'm a well-rounded person.
Yeah,
I try to be, because I think too much of one thing isn't good.
agreed.
So you can focus on that one thing, but I think you need to be well-rounded, have balance and things like that when you're not competing.
Yeah,
Okay, like when I was a basketball player, I had no balance.
yeah,
It was just all basketball. That's
yeah,
why a lot of guys are successful.
yeah.
When I was boxing, during my short boxing career, there was no balance. It was
Right.
all basketball. You know, and I understand that because that's what you have to. If you want to be successful at something, you have to put everything into it.
True. Oh,
Yeah.
just real quick, since you do love boxing, I'm curious to get your take on this. If there's so many boxers. If you're familiar, I'm not sure. Tomorrow there's a fight between boxer Brandon Figueroa, featherweight, going up against Nick Ball in Liverpool, and there's a height difference. It's featherweight stuff. So I don't know. I didn't know if you know about that specific fight coming up or any take you have on it. Who you got? That
No,
kind
I mean I know who those fighters are. I did
of.
not know that they were fighting. But listen, good luck to them, and I hope that they both come out healthy. Figueroa, I believe, is an American.
Yeah, he's an
Yeah.
American. He's a friend of mine. I just recently was out in LA, brought
Mhm.
him on the pod. He's been training, so he's challenging Nick Ball, who has the title, the world
Right,
title.
right, and honestly, he's got to go in there. He's got to knock him out because it's overseas. It's in Liverpool, as you said,
How does
and
it work then, since you know boxing really well? I mean, I know it from a fan standpoint, not from an
Mhm.
analytical standpoint enough, but if Brandon's going in and he's tall, he's much taller than this guy. How is
Yeah.
that going to work? What's the advantage or disadvantage of being like a big height difference between the two?
Well, yeah, he has to use his reach, and because he's taller, he has to keep his stick, which is his jab. He has to keep it in his opponent's face all the time and not let him get close. And if he can box him from the outside, then he's gonna have an easy night.
Mhm.
But if you let the smaller man get inside, then that's when he can do his damage. So you look at when Anthony Joshua fought Jake Paul.
Yeah.
Okay, you see how Anthony Joshua just jabbed him,
I
kept
think
him on the.
Joshua could have knocked him out in the first round, is what I think personally. I feel like I don't know if that was for like just,
Yeah, no, you know what? He couldn't have knocked him out in the first round because Jake was moving too much.
you think so? It wasn't
Yeah,
like for show. I feel like Anthony
no, no,
wanted to.
no, it wasn't for sure. Jake was on his bicycle the whole time, and had he stood there and fought, yeah, he could have knocked him out. But Jake Paul didn't give him an opportunity to do so. But Anthony Joshua took his time, used the jab, and
Yeah.
kept him at distance. And then when he saw his opportunity, he broke the guy's jaw. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
interesting. So thank you for breaking down some boxing stuff for us. Back to basketball. I asked you about how the game's changed since you played, but you played for 15 years. That's enough time for the game to evolve while you were playing. So how
Yeah.
did the league evolve or change even during your own time playing?
Well, it became faster. I mean, more possessions and things like that. But you know, when I at the end of my career, that's when you started to see the hybrid point guard.
Mm.
When I first came in, point guards just did one thing. They got the ball to everybody. They scored every now and then, but not like today's point guard, where you have like a Russell Westbrook or a Derrick Rose or a
Which
Dame
you
Lillard.
might laugh at me for saying this right now, but I personally loved, I mean, injuries, whatever. I loved Lonzo Ball because he was a pass first point
Yeah.
guard. To me, that was like, I loved it. That he's probably one of my favorite point guards, and you might laugh at me for saying that because of these last few years how
No, yeah.
it's been. But you see him as a Bruin, you even at Chino when he was in high school. I mean, that to me is what a point guard can do. Like, I don't know
Yeah,
what your take
no.
on that is.
He's a throwback point guard.
Yeah,
And that's why the people loved him here in Chicago when he was healthy. When Lonzo was healthy, this team was number one in the Eastern
yeah.
Conference. And, he was the type of point guard that I played with.
Hmm.
But then things start to evolve, and now you really don't have like pure point guards. They're all scoring point guards. I
Right.
mean, you look at
Like
Steph
Kobe
Curry,
White.
Kobe White, yeah, all those guys. I mean, even Josh Giddey now, he scores the ball as
Yeah.
well. But That's really the biggest difference in how it evolved during my 15 years.
Right. Yeah. I like that because someone like Zoe had like this perimeter defense, whereas Kobe White, I don't think had that big of a perimeter defensive game personally. I mean, I haven't
Yeah.
been following him much lately this last year or so, but now he's gone anyways. So, it is what it is. I don't know. I'm a little we had such a good like we were on a rise, and then I think as soon as we got rid of like a few people and Caruso and Zoe and all these people, I'm like, we need another rebuilding again.
Yeah, well, they have started the rebuild.
We've been in rebuild since
Yeah,
like
yeah,
forever.
yeah. They tore everything down. So
Yeah, for sure. So, who is your favorite player to watch right now, would you say?
my favorite player to watch probably would be Giannis Antetokounmpo,
Okay.
Steph Curry, of course, and Anthony Edwards.
I
I
love
love,
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
because his game is similar to mine.
he's so good.
So yeah, I really like watching Edwards play.
I love that. He's one of my faves too, so I agree with you on that. What's something you see players that you sort of touched on this a little bit ago, but I really want to like emphasize on it. What's something you see players in today's generation do that like irks you, or a common mistake they make and you're like, why? Like
Well, it's not their play; it's the way that they dress.
and how is that? What
Like
irks
I'm
you?
dressed right now, they come into the games like this.
Yeah.
And whereas when I played, everybody had suits.
Yeah.
Everybody was professional.
Yeah.
Everybody actually took pride in the way that they dressed. And we represented the league and things like that. And now you get to sit like I'm dressed right now on the bench.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that, I just don't like it at all. You know,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. So
That
that's what I don't like.
I feel like that's changed in so many ways because even in like other like outside of basketball, even in business type of areas now, like clothing, it's more streetwear, things are more relaxed in general. So people don't feel the need to dress up. Like people will go to school in pajamas now and like,
Yeah.
whereas before it's sort of like you had to dress a little nice to like polish yourself and present yourself in a way.
No, that's true.
Yeah. While you were a player, which coach or was there a coach that truly changed the way you saw the game or yourself?
Uh, no. I mean, my college coach,
Yeah.
Lou Henson,
Yeah.
really had a profound effect on the way that I saw life and the way that you can be rewarded for hard work. Um, my going into my junior year, people thought that I was going to sit on the bench, but I had improved. I had improved drastically in between my sophomore and junior year, and Coach Henson rewarded me for it. But because we had a couple McDonald's All Americans coming in, and they thought that those guys would push me down to the end of the bench, but that didn't happen. I was the one that got the starting nod, and Coach Henson recognized it. And I said, "See," and that proved to me that if you work hard and you believe that you can achieve most things in life, not everything, but most things.
I love that. That's so true. Do you ever struggle separating Kendall Gill the player from Kendall Gill the person?
I used to struggle with it, but I don't anymore because and this is what happens to you when you retire because you identify as the basketball player.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what your identity is. You don't understand that you're not basketball. That's just something that you happen to do.
Yeah.
And when after my second year into retirement, and I have to tell you, I struggled with it. But after my second year into retirement, I realized that that's just something I used to do. I mean,
Yeah.
but I'm a whole different person. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was the struggle.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so many people feel that with a lot of things. If you do something for so long, it becomes your identity. And then you're like, well, now that that's not there, what am I? So, what would you say is the hardest part about the NBA that had nothing to do with basketball?
Um, Probably saying no. That's the most important thing that you have to learn as an NBA player, as a professional athlete, as a successful person, a person that has an enormous amount of wealth. You have to learn how to say no, and that was the toughest part for me. But eventually, I got there. And because everybody's going to ask you for something.
Right.
You can't. You may think you can escape it and insulate yourself from it, but you can't. You know, and once you learn how to start saying no, you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Setting boundaries, that's something every human has to learn in their life, or else,
Yeah.
you drain yourself, you get taken advantage of, that kind of stuff.
Yep. Exactly.
Was there ever a moment in your life that you felt you had to reinvent yourself off the court?
No, I never had to reinvent myself. I was always comfortable with myself, and always did whatever I wanted to do. I guess you can say there was, I say instead of reinventing, I say it's a renaissance because now I'm a member, I'm 50, I'll be 58 coming up in May. But, now I'm a member of the Silver Fox Squad, which is a group of men that are 50 and over with all great beards. And, we're in shape and stuff like that. So we're still in shape. Uh, so, that is like my, the next thing that I've done,
Yeah.
and I enjoy being part of the group. It sort of like takes me back to being on the team.
Yeah, I love that. What was
Mhm.
the most difficult or surprising part, would you say, of life after retirement for you?
The most surprising part is that you you have to grow up because the NBA or the NFL, the Major League Baseball, it's been your parent for years. It's told you, okay, you got to be here at this time. Okay, you come over here. We gotta uh, take you to get your physical.
Right.
Okay, here's your insurance. Okay, you get paid on the first and the 15th. Okay, the bus is gonna take you here. Okay,
Yeah.
come to the airport. We got it taken care of. So nothing. You don't have to do anything, right?
I've noticed that. I've had a lot of basketball player friends, D1 and even in the NBA, and I'm like, listen, and I felt like I had to be like the big sister, the mom sometimes, even with little like hangouts or like,
Yeah,
certain appointments or things like that. So I feel you. I've seen it firsthand.
right. Yeah. So you have to grow up because none of those things are gonna be done for you anymore.
Yeah.
You have to do them on your own.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Which happens to even like people in college. My brother's 22, 23, and he's getting there. He's doing great, but sometimes
Mhm.
you get stuck in those like, oh, well, it's whatever. And then life hits you and it's like, no, you got to be here at this time. You got to not
Yep.
sleep too late, that kind of stuff. But what does fulfillment look like for you now in this chapter?
Oh, family. Um, having my wife be happy, having my kids be happy, and
Happy wife, happy life.
that's right. That's right. So, and that's when I'm most happy.
Yeah.
When she's feeling good about everything and the kids are good, that's all I need.
I
You know.
mean, you've been married for a long time. We're talking
Yeah,
about like 20 years.
almost 20 years.
I was trying to look up the dates before we got on the call just to see because I wanted to ask, like, that's hard for anyone these days because you're seeing so many people constantly get together, break up, get together, divorce. And so for you, like, you've put in work off the court just in your marriage because I'm sure that takes
I
work.
have, and believe me, it's been a lot of work.
Yeah, like that's how
So,
relationships are. So how is that like, how have you been able to, mark 20 years?
well, my wife is an alpha female. So, it's constant butting of the heads, but I learned to pick my arguments. What's worth it and what's not worth it.
All the men listening to this right now are gonna be like, oh, I feel him, I relate.
They all of them. Yeah. So, the little things I don't argue about. I let her, whatever she wants, she can do that. Where I come into play and have a say so is when there are big decisions that need to be made.
Yeah.
All and we both go over them and make a decision together. But the little stuff I don't even argue about anymore. I used to any nitpicking thing. I used
Yeah.
to argue about, but I don't even do that anymore. Saves myself a lot of gray hairs.
Yeah, I think that's like for every relationship over time, you sort of learn that. For me, like I'm getting married later this year, with my
Oh,
fiance.
congrats.
So as someone for 20 years, what's your advice to all of us like youngins getting into something like that? What are we getting into?
Well, you're getting into an institution where you're not just you can't operate as one anymore. You got to operate as two, you're two people that have to operate as one.
Yeah,
And sometimes that's difficult because he has his ways, you have your ways. Then family comes into play and things like that, and you got to realize to have a successful relationship, you can't have your family come into play. It's got to be you and him,
right,
and you and him make the decisions.
right,
So and if you can do that and not argue about small stuff, which turns into big stuff, then
right.
you can make it.
I
And
love that. That's such
yeah,
good advice. And
yeah.
that's definitely something that, yeah, I think we all have to take you know, into heart when we're taking that next step in our life. Now, when players ask you for advice that isn't marriage advice that I'm asking you for, what do you tell them about the game or about life?
Well, well, first and foremost, I tell them, you know, take care of your money. Do not put your family in your lifestyle. Okay, you can help your family, but do not put them in your lifestyle because one day this is going to be over. You're not going to dribble basketball forever. Okay, but if you do put them in your lifestyle, they're going to expect the same lifestyle after you retire.
Right.
And I know a lot of guys make a ton of money, way more than we made back in the day. But yet and still, those people are going to expect that same lifestyle. So you gotta be wary of what you do while you're playing.
Very true. Very true. Because then
Mhm.
what happens? Like you said, when you start dribbling, the resources are out. You
Can't
can't,
do it
you
anymore.
can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't get yourself into all that because then you feel like you're carrying the world on your back.
Yeah.
Um, so now some fun questions before I let you go. And, I know
Okay.
you're a busy man. So, an embarrassing moment. I love asking people this question. What's something in your life you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, this is one of the most embarrassing moments ever for me?
Uh, Let me see. Oh, I was in this dance competition and I had practiced for so long. And when we got out there, I forgot the dance move and messed up the whole routine. It was in front of all these people and everything. So we had to start over. And we did a good job, but still I lost the competition for us because I forgot the one dance move.
Oh, what dance competition was
It
this?
was it was like a Dancing with Chicago Stars.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. That would be cool to see. Is there video of this? Is this something I can?
No, there's no video of it, but I royally screwed up.
That's funny. That's good. That's a good one. Um,
Yeah.
do you have an irrational fear? So it can't be something like, oh, heights or spiders or something that most people have, has like something that's irrational or weird that you're like, I don't mess with that.
Squirrels.
Squirrels? Okay, that's a good one.
No, I got bit by a squirrel.
Oh, when?
Yeah.
How?
About 13 years ago. I was coming out my back door of my house, and we had a flower pot that's right next to the door,
Yeah.
and the squirrel ran down like I think he jumped on my shoulder and
Oh.
ran down my leg because I felt what felt like a 2x4 running down the back of my leg. And then at the end, I felt this pinch, and I looked down. I saw there was some blood coming down and everything.
Oh my.
So so ever since then, I hated squirrels.
Didn't have rabies or anything, right? You're good.
No,
Like,
I had to go get a rabies shot.
oh, okay. Yeah. So just
Yeah. So
that's scary. I wouldn't like if a squirrel that got that close and bit me either. I'd be terrified.
yeah, because normally squirrels run away from you,
Right.
but
Right.
this one didn't for some reason. I don't know why.
That's
But
crazy. That's a good one. Uh,
yeah.
glad you're okay. Glad
Thank you.
everything's good. Uh, most memorable game you've played. What would you say it was?
Um, the the game that we beat Syracuse to go to the Final Four in 1989.
Nice.
That was the happiest I've ever been in basketball, period. And I've never been able to duplicate it
Why that one? Why specifically that?
because I mean it was the Final Four. I
Yeah.
mean, and it was a tough game. We beat a tough team. It was a long road to getting to the Final Four, and it just the pure happiness and relief
I love
of getting to the Final Four, something that I had watched my whole life.
Yeah.
That's every kid's dream
Yes.
growing up watching basketball is and playing basketball is getting to the Final Four.
Super cool. I love that. To wrap everything up, when people think Kendall Gill, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to remember?
Ordinary guy that loved life that happened to play basketball better than everybody else. That's all I am.
I love that.
Yeah, I could just dribble a basketball better than and shoot a basketball better than most people. But other than that, I'm just a normal kid from Chicago.
I love that.
That made it big and came back home to raise his family and enjoy his life. That's it.
Well, to all those other normal kids listening, or even, if they have family or other people listening, what's your advice to those normal kids that maybe are growing up in Chicago or in certain areas where they think, where I can't, how am I going to make it? How am I going to get my dreams done? What's your advice to them?
So I was in college, and Andrew Wiggins, right? Plays for the Miami Heat. So his father played in the NBA too, um, and his father happened to be uh, at the University of Illinois because his wife trained for track there.
Oh,
So she's a world class sprinter, and she
wow.
happened to be training for the I don't know whether it was for the Olympics or for something there, but Mitchell Wiggins was his name. So uh, he used to come and work out with our team because he played for the Houston Rockets at the time. And he used to come and work out with our team until one day, after everything was done and we were playing, after we got done playing, uh, I doubled back and he was sitting on the bench. I'll never forget this. And he sat down on the bench and I was like, "Hey, Mitch, can you tell me what does it take to make the NBA?" And then he just looks over at me, looks up, and he said, "Do you believe in yourself?" That's all he said. He didn't give me any like, you have to do this, you have to do that. He said, "Do you believe in yourself?" And that was it.
I
And
love
if I was to relay any message to any young person out there that's trying to achieve a goal or has a dream that they want to achieve, that's all it is, belief. You got to believe in yourself. And if you can do that, you're going to find a way.
Amen. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard because life throws things at you and you believe in yourself and then you don't and then you do and then you don't. And so
Yeah,
I guess not losing that belief in yourself. That's so true because
that's right.
it's that and the hard work you put behind it.
Yep,
But yeah,
exactly.
I love that. Thank you so much. I genuinely enjoyed, talking with you and like
Thank you.
and hearing your story because like obviously we've seen you on the court, we've seen you broadcasting, but I just wanted to get to know you more as the person off the court and who you are, your journey, and I know listeners are gonna just love that.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Kendall.
Okay. All right. Bye bye.